The next special lecture will be given by Professor A.R.D. Prasad on smart cities, big data, and public libraries. So about Professor Prasad. Professor Prasad is a former professor and head of Documentation Research and Training Center DRTC at the Indian Statistical Institute ISI in Bengaluru. With 29 years of experience in teaching and research, he holds a PhD in library science as well as MA and MPhil in philosophy degrees. Professor Prasad has held many prestigious positions, including serving as a member of high-level committee for the National Mission of Libraries NML in India, the Working Group of Libraries for the National Knowledge Commission NKC of India, and as a consultant of UNFAO in Rome, UNESCO in Paris, and the Commonwealth of Learning in Vancouver, Canada. He has also been a member of the Google Summer of Code, a member of the Electronic Thesis and Dissertations Committee for the InflibNet, and a member of the UGC of India Curriculum Development Committee on Library and Information Science. Professor Prasad has published 4 books and approximately 80 papers and has guided 13 PhD students. Professor Prasad has extensive research experience and has been a leader or participated in several projects, including the Living Knowledge project funded by the European Commission in the area of semantic web and Ag Infra project in agricultural data. He has been involved in the integration of Agris AP metadata scheme for DS Space and has contributed for the development of NGO portal for United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization UNAIDS program for WHO and the Global Open Access portal for UNESCO. So this session will be chaired by Professor Durga Shankar Rath, Vidyasagar University. So I would like to invite Professor Rath on the stage and say a few words.
See, I don't want to lose much time. Neither I can add value to his lecture, nor I can elaborate his discussion also. Only way I can help is I would like to request Professor A.R.T. Prasad, my teacher and guide also, and he will talk on the topic. Thank you.
Firstly, I would like to thank the Institute of Development Studies. IISSR has funded this because way back in asked for funding on an international conference for big data and knowledge discovery. They said it doesn't belong to social sciences. Okay, now I think jokingly I say I think I was far ahead of the times. It appears, but anyhow, that is one thing. And some of the discussions also prompted me to cover a little about open data. Data should be open, not in the problem is any technology comes forward, immediately businessmen jump into it. So that's why the data by private organizations who try to sell and make money out of it, which is against the grain of my own philosophy. Okay. The another thing is I would like to talk about the smart cities, which is I think a favorite slogan of the government. I know that maybe I am a bit critical. When I was in the Knowledge Commission working group on libraries, there is another working group on National Knowledge Network, NKN. And finally, you know what they did? They gave internet connection to some universities and research labs. And where is the knowledge on the network? I think there is no mandate also what kind of knowledge should go onto the network. Just I think that kind of connectivity, any internet service provider does that. Okay, that you don't have to have a grand slogan like National Knowledge Network. That's why sometimes these are more political slogans rather than prompted by any necessity, okay, or some vision. So is the case with the smart cities, because I wanted to talk at least my view of what a smart city is. You can only build a smart city with the data in place. Then only you can build a powerful decision support system with the data, okay. But again, I found in my hometown, one pavement is enlarged, and they said this is part of the smart cities. I don't know what is that. Okay. Anyhow, I'll be talking nowadays. You know, data science has become a big hype. you get so much salary, $10,000 per month, like that. Huge hype about it. So public libraries, why I am championizing? First thing is I am a library science person, and naturally I believe public libraries have a great role in the context of smart cities. That is what my advocacy is. Okay, because good old days, I think earlier government launched e-governance, and for various reasons it was, I think it had a starting, a few meetings I attended, after that nobody talked about it. Public libraries' advantage is they are not very authoritative, okay, and they can play a very strong role in decision support system of the smart cities. So I touch upon big data very little. I don't dwell much more into the big data. Basically, traditional data requires a different kind of a technology, normally database management systems, but in the context of big data, they don't really scale. Okay, that's why there are many other models. You know that people talk about volume of the data, variety of data, I think spelling is wrong, velocity of the data. Okay, how do you handle? Veracity, this is a very tricky affair, because as one of my earlier speakers was mentioning about NSSO, I remember vaguely when NSSO published unemployment data after demonetization, I think there was a lot of pressure from the government to change, but I appreciate the NSSO scientists for not budging an inch. I think if I remember correctly, you must be knowing from close quarters, I think some of them resigned. Am I right? Yes. Okay, so that is the veracity of the data. Okay, like in computer parlance we say GIGO, that is garbage in and garbage out. If your data is a garbage, what your decisions also would be garbage. Then volume, of course, business people are very much interested. My counterparts in the European universities, they get a lot of projects from the industry, okay, on big data. The reason is they wanted to do opinion mining from social media. So that's why whenever you search, if I search for a flight to Calcutta, immediately next 15 days I keep cheaper flights like that. That means somebody is watching you, what you are doing. That is big data, okay. So whatever you try to shop, and that's why they say people suspect if you are using Amazon Echo, even if I if I talk to my wife, I want to buy some food, immediately food advertisements keep on popping up onto the, that means somebody is watching you, okay. So that's why I always feel Orwell was a bit short-sighted when he introduced Big Brother and all that. Pity is every government wants to be a big brother, not just Stalin alone, okay. But whether Stalin did or not, there was a lot of propaganda against him. I think maybe one of the unfortunate personalities in the history, maybe, I am not sure, okay. Vertical and horizontal, I avoid this technology stuff, okay, Hadoop and all that, NoSQL databases, I avoid. Okay, once you have the data, okay, statisticians come into picture, and they talk about predictive analytics. Until now, probably most of the time we use statistics for descriptive analytics, okay. Now they say predictive, okay. If I find a pattern in a terrorist bombing, whether I can predict in which place, what date, around what date they may attack, okay. That is, but again, it is based on probability. So as I was in the Indian Statistical Institute, my favorite job is to pull the leg of the statisticians. When you talk about probability, there is no exact science in statistics. Just I am kidding, okay. But they say it's a science of approximations, okay. Then prescriptive, once you could predict, you can take, I think, measures to meet the predictions. So of course there are a lot of good software, but I championize again openness in many areas. That is, I say open access to information. Information should be freely available, should be liberated from the commercial publishing industry, and also open standards so that interoperability and long-term preservation are ensured. Then you require open source software. So normally I don't use Windows. I don't know when maybe some 20, 25 years back I stopped using Windows. There is, of course, you have powerful software like R Studio, or even Python. Okay, you don't have to go for good old days. I think for a long time, for social science people, they say SPSS, but I believe R and R Studio are even more powerful, especially visualizations and other things. MATLAB is powerful, but heavy cost. This is my favorite topic because I talk about open data. You know, the library and information science people, in the beginning, they emphasized more on books. Then Ranganathan came onto the scene and said the documents should be. Then we started talking information science. We want to look at the content of the books. Now, you know that information is generated by data. So I think it's a natural extension for the library and information science people to study the data also. Remember, library people are not scientists in any domain, okay? We only deal information about information. So many people, if that is the case, I know that many people think if a software guy develops some software, they think, oh, he's not a scientist, he's not a domain expert. Because I know, for example, good friends in meteorology department, they develop a lot of numerical models for weather prediction. Probably they ask some programmer to develop programs for that, to do the calculations or the drudgery behind it. But doesn't make the software guy a meteorologist, okay? So I always feel evolution of mankind, if you take into consideration, I think speech was a huge, and we always learn from the past generations and move forward. So that's why that's famous Newtonian statement, you know, that I stand on the piers of my shoulders. So evolution of languages definitely allowed communication, and writing, of course, it has allowed to record the information so that posterity can access it. For various religions in this one, some people might not have, but again, that is the case. Libraries are powerful organizational force to preserve information to the posterity. So I always say the open access movement is open source software, open access to information, open standards, open data repositories, open science, and open research. Nowadays, even UNESCO is trying to push the case of open science and open research. So openness. So openness is completely it's one in the context of some people call it dark data. That means the data that is not openly accessible. It remains in the dungeons of some organization. But how to bring the data into limelight? So until it is brought into limelight, we consider it as dark data. Okay. So we know that various government departments have lot of data but unpublished. It remains dark. So unless it is put to the public to take various decisions, then we can say, okay, the data is being used. Why data is not published? Okay, by the scientists also. You know, I mean, I come to the research data management science side. Scientists have one problem. Once the problem is solved, they don't care to publish the data. But nowadays, scientific journals are insisting when you publish some article which is based on some laboratory data or any data in the context of social science people, you have to publish the data also. That is a good trend. It is important that data is available, because everybody may interpret the same data in different ways. For example, you have, for example, survey data. Some people may look what is the education levels. Some people say gender and education. Some people say economic background and education. So there are various facets for the same data. Okay. Of course, there are, you know, that once the money is involved, even governments become really dirty and cruel, actually. Okay. You know, one of the guys from MIT, Aaron Swartz, when he started pulling a lot of data from JSTOR, US government interfered, not even the JSTOR guys, and pulled him to the court, immediately committed suicide because I think he would get life imprisonment, in the sense life. something like 50 or 100 years. So poor guy, I think even the legend Tim Berners-Lee paid obituary to that poor kid. Now, what is closed data? Data is not published, subscription based, okay, unless you pay money, data is not accessible. Or sometimes they put encrypted data so that unless you decrypt, you cannot access. CAPTCHAs they provide. So absolute free data should not have any kind of restrictions. That is what we be. Sometimes, political, legal, commercial, whether it is Boris Pasternak or Salman Rushdie or anybody, immediately some organization plunges into action and say, hey, you should not read this, you should read that. I always feel, why let the people decide what they should read and what they should not read. That is freedom. Okay. Now, in support, data belongs to mankind. First thing is, mostly data is generated by public money. Okay. And that is, governments fund a lot of data. Facts cannot be copyrighted. And value of data would be fully realized when it is widely opened, used, reused by various people. Restrictions will create anti-creative commons. Okay, open data will make it more harmony, will accelerate more scientific research. If data is openly available, others may draw different conclusions, others may deal with other facets of data. Objectivity and self-correctiveness is one of the important characteristics of science. Science is objective, we believe, and self-correctiveness is there for science. So that's why we should advocate open data. Okay. Then against open data, people say, no, we have spent a lot of money, we bought a lot of equipment, we hired a lot of manpower to collect the data, we cannot give it freely. Okay. And philosophy for me is data should be freely available. Biased copyright laws. Copyright laws are completely in favor of the industry. Okay, some ridiculous patents, and somebody comes and says Haldi is patented, as if he is the guy who these patent laws are also really funny. Okay, bad science. Okay, this is my view. So please don't get shocked by my statements. Much of the science is used for defense purposes, because every government's dream is to kill its neighbors. Okay, perhaps US is an exception. They can come anywhere and kill anybody. Okay, but industry, why they are interested in science is they can rob the people better. Okay, so not without side effects. I do accept some of these scientific developments by themselves are neutral, may be used wrongly by politicians and governments, but again, some side effects would be there, whether it is synthetic rubber or in case of your Sasbahu entertainment. Okay, because satellite technology is meant for defense purpose. Okay, your computers are meant for defense purpose. I mean, they were invented. Okay. Debatable, data in wrong hands. Some people say, no. If somebody knows how to make crude bombs, it is dangerous. And terrorism, that's why I always feel George Orwell, I mean, somehow I read his books, but not completely I agree with him. Then players in big data. So first thing is, big data is a multi-domain research. In the sense, you require library and information science people to collect the data, data acquisition, curation, and publishing. So curation, in my perspective, involves gathering the data and making it more complete. For example, there are software like Google Refine or Open Refine and other things to clean, to identify what are the missing values, whether there are any duplicate entries, all this. Incidentally, I think one of the speakers, Sir Dennis, Dr. Rajkumar mentioned the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. We conducted a workshop for them. Actually, it was to be held before COVID, but by the time things moved, so we extended it by a week, and we did on how to do data curation. I mean, two aspects: how to clean the data and how to publish the data. Okay, this is typically a library science man's job, because how to make it much more discoverable by adding metadata, so that once you publish, the entire world can access your data. And there are open standards, then licenses and other things. So normally we use Creative Commons. Personally, I prefer CC0. That is no restrictions, no how it's business. Then you have, in the context of big data, you require computer science people to create clusters of computers. In ISI Bangalore, I did a little cluster of 3 servers. Then you have statisticians. Then you have, of course, domain experts. So for example, economic data, it's not that library science people or computer people can do it. To understand the data, you require, okay, domain experts, some economists or somebody like that. So I feel this is a multidisciplinary area, okay. Of course, you have economics is one aspect. You can have physics data or satellite data, so many or medical data. You have a lot of medical data. Okay, of course, in mostly social sciences, it is tabular data. So smart cities, of course, at an international level, smart city data. At an international level, you have UN is publishing some data. Even national governments, data.gov.in. Actually, we studied. Okay, one of my students, Sudipta Biswas, he studied and tried to evaluate how good is our data.gov.in. But we found they did not follow any standards. No, I mean, that is not really, the purpose of publishing data is sharing the data, reusable data. Okay. Nowadays, whenever we talk about sharing, means reusability is the main concept. That is what I proposed. The mankind completely always reusable. They used the earlier generations data. And we have city level. You have Berlin, Rio de Janeiro, Copenhagen and all that. So if you want to build smart cities, first you have to build a data repository of that city. Okay, that is important. For example, see, otherwise it will become just a network. If you give internet and say it is, we build a smart city, also is not. Dark data is fine. Nowadays people talk about fair data. I think I am, okay, fine. Okay. Role of librarians, data acquisition, cleaning, and other things, making data discoverable. That is our main idea. And another, this one is, just as in Aadhaar, in the library science field, especially in information retrieval, we assign unique IDs to everything, whether it is a published article or a data set, or of course, good old days, we have ISBN, ISSN, and all those things. Even author IDs, like ARCID, author IDs, institutions IDs, all this should be, this is typically the domain of the library and information science people. Then we have linked open data. That means if you have data, for example, I have agricultural data of Andhra Pradesh, Bengal, and some Punjab, like that. But if somebody wants to know, no, I want for the entire country, I can pick up from the disparate data sets and build for the entire country or across Asia. For example, from Thailand, I have rice production, and China and India. I should be able to access those data sets. That's where linked open data comes into picture. And you have various standards putting into that. And for example, in the case of smart cities, you must be having data about waste management, disaster management, transport, crime, traffic, water, everything. For example, I wanted to study the traffic jams are, actually Bangalore has the distinction now, the other day came out, world's slowest traffic, I think second place we occupied. Okay, I think that was one of the reasons I left Bangalore. To go to any friend, 1.5 hours. Probably 10 kilometers away, and you have to go face the traffic problem, okay? So, water, for example, how much traffic jams, how many traffic accidents, how many vehicles are being registered. If you have that data, probably you can build a powerful decision support system, or width of the roads, or other things. So healthcare, so many, I think every municipal corporation will have lots of data. Only thing is we have to streamline the data and give it to the policy makers so that you build a powerful decision support system that is informed decisions, not that that's, I mean, I know in Bangalore I can take because I was there more. One day they say this is one way. After 1 week they find, no, too much a problem, the other way is open. That means there are no simulation studies even. How much traffic, what time the traffic is increasing, no data is there. Just a rule of thumb, okay, this side better. Okay. So traffic data I have done, police required, municipality requires, transport department and administrators. So infrastructure in place, okay. Can we really, because I am a library science man and I am quite chauvinistic about it, I say, can we really build smart cities without the help of library community? Okay. But again, you know that actually in 2011, the government mandated all the data, all the organizations which receive public funding should publish the data. Okay, the NDSAP, National Data Accession Policy, blah, blah is there. But what I say is nothing, only agricultural data you find on datagov.in. The reason being, librarians are not, trained how to gather the data and they have a circular, even defense organizations. So every Friday they should meet and identify which data sets can be made open and publish. But again, how to publish, how to clean, nothing is there. Okay, nothing is in place. Just a political slogan. Okay, slogan is good, I invite, but it has to have some homework first, then implementation strategies should be in place. So, okay, we did, I think I told you, we did for Ministry of Corporate Affairs, and I think just he warned me and I stopped. Okay. So, any questions I would like to answer, I will be more than happy to answer. I thought I have made a lot of controversial statements. Okay. I think people are very soft. Yeah, please, sir.
At the outset, I must thank Dr. Prasad for presenting this such an important issue. You see, a smart city is more digital based, all information set. And in the context of Kolkata, we had the experience to study the local areas, how they are settled. But I am not asking, just commenting that regarding smart cities in the context of health, hospital, education center, and property prices. These are very much important, and if the digitalization is in proper way, it would be a good step for the public to monitor this. So it's very nice that you have focused this area, and I will be hopeful that if you make a movement on this thing, then it will be an asset for the future smart cities.
First, I would like to thank you, sir. But again, unless I think I have been advocating that I think there should be a training to the library community on how to gather the data and clean and publish. I hope one day it falls on some honest ears. Okay, but again, I am not an optimist. Basically, I am a pessimist also. Okay, for this one. In any case, I hope at least my library community would come forward and train themselves in data, I don't say data science, data management. Okay, we are more in the data management side. Actually, I introduced in DRTC at least 2-3 papers related to data management. Okay, even after retirement, I did not want them to be free from work. Okay. So once again, I thank the Institute of Development Studies, okay, and its director, Professor Akin Chakravarti, and the library person who invited me, Mr. Sanjay Kar. And I thank you one and all for listening to me patiently. Thank you very much.